everybody. This is Josh Macias, National Director of Vets for Trump. Excited to come to talk to you about another Navy veteran that is stepping up in the 5th Congressional of Oklahoma, and that is Miles Rahimi. And you need to understand what he is up to in Oklahoma. This brother in arms has been downrange, and he understands the intricacies of the veteran community, and he understands the military mindset because he just got out. And he understood that the battle needed to continue on the home front, and that's why we support him 110% and are giving our Vets for Trump endorsement in the Oklahoma 5th District. You need to get to know Miles as I'm getting to know him well more, and you need to be able to vote for him in Oklahoma. This is Josh Macias, Vets for Trump out.
Hey guys, Miles Rahimi, America First Conservative, running in Oklahoma's 5th Congressional District. Thank you so much, Josh, for the kind words. I'm really honored to have the endorsement of Vets for Trump. I got out of the Navy a few months ago because I saw a larger battle that needs to be waged for our brothers and sisters in arms, for scars that they bring off the battlefield. I worked as a corpsman specifically in mental health, and we need to have a national discussion on mental health and provide our veterans with the care they deserve. Again, thank you so much for the endorsement by Vets for Trump. I'm honored to have it, and I want to help President Trump fight to build this border wall and fight against the deep state. God bless you, and God bless America.
Hello and welcome to nrnplus.com/live, newrightnetwork.com. My name is Frank D'Onofrio. I'm your host tonight for our continuous town halls to promote the MAGA candidates in 2020. And I'm joined tonight by a very nice individual. He's running in Oklahoma City's district, District 5, in the Seminole area. And his name is Miles Rahimi. Miles, welcome to nrnplus.com/live and newrightnetwork.com. How are you tonight?
I'm great. Happy to be here with you.
Okay, well, I'm gonna just jump right in. This is a crazy last 24 hours for me. I won't get into it on a personal level, but I'm glad we were able to put this together in such a quick time period. But I do have a great team over here at nrnplus.com and the Vets for Trump. I want to also welcome into our group tonight the Vets for Trump, who are sponsoring this event and also sponsoring and endorsing Miles Rahimi, who is a Navy veteran who just retired from the Navy, right, Miles? About what?
No, I separated after almost 8 years, so I didn't retire, but
you separated.
Separated, honorably separated. I got out to run for Congress here in my home state of Oklahoma. Well,
I applaud you for that. Between me and you and the lamppost, if I had to choose if I had to choose, the Navy's not mine because I can't swim. Okay, so
don't worry, they train you how to.
That's it. So, but and I don't think I'm old enough anymore to be enlisted at this point in time. But I applaud you for serving our country, and thank you very much for your service. I'm going to jump right in. Please tell us about yourself. Tell us why you're running. Obviously, you left the Navy to take care of things and work and get to this point. So the podium's yours right now.
All right. Well, my name's Miles Rahimi. I am an America First conservative, and I'm running for the same reason I joined our nation's military 8 years ago. It's because I love this country. And, you know, my time in the Navy, I spent as a hospital corpsman, and I'm sure that many of your viewers will know what a corpsman does. They commonly deploy overseas, attached to Marines to heal our wounded Marines on the battlefield. But I was deployed to a different battlefield, if you will, one where our service member didn't face enemies abroad, but the demons within. And so what I'm talking about is I serve specifically in mental health, dealing with any kind of service member who had an addiction, be it alcohol, heroin, or meth. It became my responsibility to ensure that they received the treatment they needed. And a lot of service members will recognize this bracelet as what it means. But to me, seeing so many come through my care and knowing on a national level, 22 veterans are committing suicide every day, that's a national disgrace. I mean, let's take a pause for a moment of my introduction and just ask, do you think that if we had 22 Walmart employees committing suicide every day, that we wouldn't see that on the news or wouldn't be a Capitol Hill inquiry? It's a sad reality, and that needs to change. And we need a voice for our veterans. And that work I did in the Navy had a significant amount of personal meaning to me, because when I was young, my parents divorced and my mom began to abuse drugs. And by the time I was 10 years old, we were living in rural Oklahoma with no running water and unreliable electricity, where I watched my mom succumb to a drug addiction. And I can't change what happened to me and my family, but I'll do everything I can to make sure no other son or daughter ever has to experience what I did. And I'll do everything I can to make sure that our veterans are taken care of, because it's personal for me. And to me, that means cutting off the flow of these drugs from our southern border and building a wall so we can ensure that that flow stops, and ensuring treatment's available for each and every one of those drugs victims. Because anyone watching who has dealt with it knows that it gets its claws into you. And I lost my mom 6 years ago to that. And so I'm fighting this not just because it's part of my personal history, but because too many Americans and too many Oklahomans suffer. 50,000 die each year, and over 2 million suffer from addiction. Meth on the streets is more powerful, more potent, and stronger than it's ever been, and it's more deadly than ever before. But also, I'm running as an America First conservative. We hear that a lot, but what it means to me is I'm a conservative because I'm going to stand up for our Constitution, and I'm going to fight to defend our Second Amendment. My father immigrated from Iran during the revolution of 1979. In fact, my grandfather sent him over at 16, 17 years old, and he lost everything. And it's clear to me that the liberties I enjoy here today are preserved by our red, white, and blue. I mean, you'll see behind me in this shadow box of one of the knives from Iwo Jima, and us raising the flag. Wherever that flag flies, liberty's downwind of it. And
absolutely.
I'm so grateful for what.
Miles, I saw a post, a meme on Twitter, I think, and the meme was that statue, and it said, "Just think about taking this one down."
Yeah, right. I spent 3 years with the Marines. I can tell you for certain, you're not taking that statue down.
That is not coming down. That is definitely not coming down. And
I'd love to see some idiot try. But
well, I'll tell you, it's. Let's get into it. Okay,
yeah.
Let's really get into it, because this is we're in a very, very, very crazy point in time. Okay, and the time that we're in is actually so crazy. I have no clue as to. I think I woke up one morning in the bizarro world. Okay, I mean, it's changed so much. What's up is down, what's down is up, and all of a sudden we have people rioting in the streets to affect socialism in our country, and we have kids that just don't get. I'm sorry, I call them kids, but I have young adults who just don't get that they're fighting to enslave themselves.
They don't
talk a little
it.
bit about that.
Well, there's a reality of our history, and they're trying. I mean, our history shows us the first step to any revolution is to erase our history, which
Yep.
tearing down these statues. But I experienced diversity in my life. I've experienced being targeted while I was in the Navy, mind you, for my being half Iranian, and people mistaking their formal for moral authority. And what happened to George Floyd was wrong. No one denies that. But what we are seeing is a perversion of these peaceful protests into bringing us all under the same umbrella of feeling disenfranchised. So their combined weight can pierce through our founding principles that are founded in Judeo-Christian values. And someone needs to go and rip up the umbrella that they're standing on to prove it's not being this systemic racism. But the reality is, for me, as a first-generation American, some people want to tell us that it's the most awful country in the world, that we are founded in all these bad things. I can tell you with certainty, it is the greatest country in the world, and it's not.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because I just wrote an article for newrightnetwork.com, and the article I wrote was our mission statement and is our Declaration of Independence, and as you well know, in the next 6 days or 5 days we're going to be celebrating our 244th birthday, but not by the same standards, unfortunately. But I call it the mission statement of the world because there were two things that have occurred in the history of man. The first was the Sermon on the Mount, and I write in the article, the Sermon on the Mount is when Jesus laid down to the world effectively what Christianity was, okay? Mm-hmm. Which was, he was changing the standards. And that was over 1,600 years ago. And 244 years ago, the founders of this nation got together and wrote the Declaration of Independence. And if you don't understand the preamble, it says that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Yes. Now, what people do not understand, and this is why you're going into and going to go run for Congress, is that your job is not to implement your ideals upon the people. The people are telling you what they want. And we have lost track, Nancy Pelosi and everybody else have lost track that they think that they have the right to govern us. No, they only have the right to govern us because we give it to them by our Constitution.
One thing that you had said, which is profound, about the Declaration of Independence is the right of those governed. Is even our founding fathers understood that the governed protected not just whites, but everyone, slaves, etc. Because the largest complaint written by Thomas Jefferson in the Declaration of Independence had to do with the abolition of slavery.
Yes, and they took it out. Unfortunately, they took that out. That was taken out by the Continental Congress. Unfortunately, Theory, you know about this.
That the good faith, the reality that in order to, is we were not a non-perfect system. We were imperfect, right?
Yes.
But we knew that predated rights exist.
Yes.
And then we knew how to protect said rights, our Second Amendment. And it led to a civil war to get rid of it.
Well, here's the thing. Got to get the two things from the Declaration. And also the first sentence of the preamble is the earth-shattering. The first and the sentence I just read to you were the most earth-shattering words ever written in human existence. Okay, for government.
The Bible.
Okay, I said no for government. I'm saying for government.
I know.
Okay, and as I want to say, our producer's Theory will know that being a writer for New Right Network, one of the craziest things in the world is we have to live with editors. and sometimes our editors take things out that we want in, and Thomas Jefferson was very upset. But the thing that I'm going to, the first sentence of the preamble to the Declaration of Independence is what was one of the most radical one of the most radical words ever written. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator.
Yeah.
By their creator, not just from government. They are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, okay? Which goes beyond government. That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And then therefore, to secure those rights, governments are instituted deriving their just powers from the governed, not from the government. And we are the first government ever in the history of mankind that has said that. And I'm telling you that these people that are out on the streets that are protesting want to change that. They want to tell us how to live. They want to take away our First Amendment right of free speech because they're going to redefine it. And they're going to take away our Second Amendment because we can't defend ourselves. Therefore, that will allow them to do that. And, everything else goes after that. So, Miles, talk about that for a second.
Well, it's our predated rights. We just look at history as I'm trying to consolidate my thought here because I think there's some profound to be said about where we are today and how far away it is from the reality of our founding. And I think it has a lot to do with the detachment of values. My neighbor says this, he said this once to me, and I told him I was going to steal it, but I give him credit every time I say it, is that the values build families, families build communities, and communities built our nation. And the government is 3 steps away from our values. Our government can't legislate morality. We have to find those values. We have to find our morals. And for me, and every decision I make when I'm an elected official is going to be forged through my faith. And my immediate thoughts are to go, to prayer and to find what I'm doing is in the same spirit that our founders intended, because we have to uphold our predated rights. And what we're seeing now, like you said, with Nancy Pelosi and the squad, is they believe that these individuals, that they know better than the rest of us. And
yes, and they're going to tell us what to do.
I went to a church, a Bible study, a church that could hold maybe 36 individuals out, and it was actually outside of my district. They invited me, and I'm, whom I say to no to a Bible study. And I went there, and I left almost in shock because these individuals were so afraid of someone from Los Angeles, someone from New York coming into their lives and telling them how to run their church. And this is a small, podunk town, Oklahoma. And that reality is the reality. And you see this, these Black Lives Matter protesters going into the gated community. And those 2 individuals, if you remember, they had weapons out protecting their property. If you've seen that video online in the last 24 hours.
Yes.
It's incredible. Our founders knew that the best way to ensure that our predated rights were protected was to give the power to the people through bearing arms.
Yes.
And if we get
so you can protect yourself.
In Article 1, Section 8, in the enumerated powers, it's very clear what they intended for our militia and for our military is for the people to come together. And, it's a responsibility of the people when a government becomes tyrannical to change that government.
Yes.
And I fear that my father losing everything at 16 to 17 years old and having to flee his country because a despotic few thought they knew what was best for him, I fear that reality could become my reality. And
absolutely. I mean, just overnight, they just came in and just said, okay, the Ayatollah, Khomeini, or as a great guy in New York, Bob Grant, used to call him the Ayatollah Cockamamie.
I had a different idea of what they call them.
but but that's okay. He came in and he said, "Okay, this is," and he upturned the entire country, and now all of a sudden the rights of people were done. Women no longer had any rights, and honestly, you got to look at where we're going with this, and it's all coming from a Marxist/communist concept, okay?
Absolutely.
Which condones shouting down dissenting opinions, okay, and so on and so forth. And unfortunately, we were losing track of the fact, and Facebook and Twitter are and social media are part of this, which shout down your rights, okay, to freedom of speech. And Reddit's now taking newrightnetwork.com off their platform. Why, I don't know, because we're right wing, okay, because we don't agree with them, and so, but what you have to understand is that Voltaire said, "I may hate what you say, but I will defend your right to say it to the death." In a Marxist communist regime, there's no room for alternative.
Theory, I love it. It's incredible, and the reality is like going forward with respect to me as an elected officials. One piece of legislation that I'm going to introduce the day I'm sworn in is the Tweet Freely Act. Is President Trump likes to tweet, so it's play on words. Is Article 230 of our Communications Act is incredibly vague, and that was 1996, I believe. We need to draw a clear line in the sand that differentiates platforms versus publishers, because you're seeing that happen with you being taken off of Reddit. Is they're a publisher, but they're not held liable for that. And so
right.
Altering 230 of the Communications Act, I think, would do significant help. And also, if we restrict any federal funding from going to any organizations, any ad buying that the organization restricts otherwise First Amendment protected speech, I think that will really, really help see transparency. But it's incredible that I've read reports that show that the elections can be swayed by 4 percentage points. And that's a frightening reality whenever you look at these high-tech CEOs and their own personal political preferences.
Well, you know yourself. How many votes did the current incumbent win by?
3,666. Which
that's that's less than a full percentage.
Well, we're an R+12 district, and so it goes to say, why did we lose? When he lost, he blamed it on, and I'm paraphrasing here, the rapid increase of millennial growth within our district. It's not that. I'm 30 years old. I know and I see that we're passing on our values to our youth, but it's our detachment from our political civic duty. And we haven't had to respond to a draft. And until now, a national crisis hasn't been at our forefront. And when it has come, is we've allowed the same old politicians, the same old stale Republican leadership to allow us to rack up $21 trillion in debt and our nation's survival becoming dependent on China. And so we have to return this to a citizen legislature instead of individuals, regardless of party, staying there 40 years and becoming part of the problem. And so my stepping forward is I hope to inspire future conservative generations in stepping forward and leaving a political footprint, because these omnibus spending packages, these capitulations, these accepting the new normals, it has to end. The time for timidity and half measures is over. We need to draw a firm line in the sand and hold true to our founding values. And I'm stepping forward to do that.
Well, one of the most important votes that Kendra Horn, who is the incumbent, has said that she voted on was to vote against President Trump, and to vote for his impeachment twice.
And the irony of it is she has a Juris Doctorate. She's a lawyer, but I've read the impeachment papers. I only have a bachelor's of science in legal studies, but I could understand that it looked like as one of those essays, that a kid turned and where he didn't write the book, but he's trying to convince someone that they actually read the book. It was complete BS.
The Cliff Notes. The Cliff Notes.
Yeah, almost. But no, they didn't even bother going to the Cliff Notes, because now we're seeing at the tail end of it that the Patriot of Patriots, General Flynn, was targeted by a weaponized DOJ.
Yes. Yes.
And that he had to sell his home. This man had to sell his home. And one of the committees I would love to be on is the Ethics Committee. Aside from the Armed Services Committee, I would love to sit on the Ethics Committee, because what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. And people need to be held accountable. You know, we can talk about how despotic our governments become, but we need to start, we need to start taking heads off Medusa, if you will.
Well, you know what, William Miles, here's one of the things that really upsets me in politics today. What we're doing is we're taking every single issue on the table and dividing them into three specific areas. Okay.
Yeah.
One is you're racist or not. Okay. The second is that you're sexist or not. Okay. And the third is, you're homophobic or not. Now, all three of those, I would tell you in life, okay, all three of those don't occur in everybody's first thoughts every day. And I'm darned if no, they don't. The first thought of life is, how am I going to feed my family? Okay.
Yeah.
How am I going to feed my family? And am I able to have a lifestyle with, if God forbid something were to happen to me, that I could, I could be able to survive. Now, I'm an insulin dependent diabetic. Every day I have to think about what's going to happen if the government, changes policy on insulin, and I can't get it in my lifetime because I'm dead. Okay, I'm dead.
So you hit on two issues, and let's address those individually, but let's combine them. In order to have a meaningful conversation with anyone, your first thought can't be, oh, well, you're a racist, sexist, bigot. Because once a conversation starts off like that, my response is, well, you're a jerk. You know nothing about me. Can we continue on to have an actual conversation?
Yeah.
Or should I just, waste my time somewhere else? And you can't. If I'm expected to go to Congress and have conversations, you have to be able to have meaningful conversations. And with respect to healthcare, one of the largest things we see with healthcare costs is immigrants here illegally using our emergency rooms as primary care providers. And it increases the cost and passes it on to us in the form of insurance hikes, because the hospitals are footing the bill for uncollected debts. And so one proposal I have, which, in the midst of this pandemic, is an immigration moratorium. We need to hit the pause button on our broken immigration system to allow us to really take a fine look at it and fix it.
Let's back up a second, Miles. If you take the Declaration of Independence, which is we get out, the government gets their rights by the consent of the governed, okay? They're not acting by the consent of the governed by having all of these illegals. These illegals are not citizens, but they are treated as if they should have the same rights as a American citizen. So, Miles, you earned your citizenship here, correct? I mean, you were born.
No. I was born here.
You were born here. No, I'm saying is you earned your citizenship by birthright. You were born here. Okay.
Yes.
I was born here. My family, my grandparents came from Italy. Okay. But I earned my birthright by being born here. And as an American citizen, one of the things that's been happening to me is I'm an IT professional, and I have had to fight for jobs against non-citizens being brought in to take my jobs.
Yeah, and they're using our work visa programs. They're here. Not only that, but it's incredible that hole that you just uncovered, so to speak, is an immigration moratorium will allow us to look at all of these broken systems that allow corporations, even now during the pandemic, where, this, you have individuals asking for more work visa permits to come over here and take American jobs. When our visa program was written in 1990, it was intended for temporary use. But now you see the abuse of H-1B visas, OPT visas, for decades on end, individuals staying here, not paying FICA taxes, and taking out of your pocket. They drive down wages and they increase your housing costs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When there are more H-1B visas, what happens is that my rate is reduced because they take these people from a foreign country, okay, put them here, and these people are not citizens. They know that. They're here for a temporary basis, okay? Say 3 years, they make more money here than they'll ever make at home, okay? They make like 20 times that they can make. They live 3 or 4 to an apartment, and they share they share their they pool their resources and send all their money back home, and then they go home wealthy because they have a farm or whatever, and that's it for them. I mean,
but also is you see a lot of these individuals who do earn their legal citizenship, abusing their citizenship by employing illegal immigrants. And so one thing I want to fight for is E-Verify to combat the abuse of these employers who are abusing our immigration system. And I didn't realize how terrible until I got a policy briefing, how terrible this was. It prevents individuals like 16 and 17-year-olds from getting like a first job at a gas station.
Yes.
Because the gas station's owned by a foreigner and they employ under the table. Again, not paying FICA taxes. We can get into debt later on during discussion. But they're losing out on American jobs. And an immigration moratorium includes a pause on refugees, because what we've seen is we bring over refugees who don't share our same values. And Dinesh D'Souza put this very well. There are 2 cultures in America, one of decency and one of indecency. And you can't convince me that a culture of decency brought over here to states like Minnesota, where you see them actively practicing female genital mutilation, that is not decent. No. And they would be better settled somewhere else as a refugee. But it will allow us to take a pause, focus on America and Americans first. And also it will allow us to address the big problem in the room is how we've allowed these terrible trade deals that put capital first and small business owners last to come through. And readdressing that, especially in the midst of this Chinese virus, will be in part by bringing back 100% of the manufacturing of pharmaceuticals, medical equipment to the United States. So we're no longer sitting on our hands when, God forbid, another one of these pandemics hit.
Mm-hmm. Miles, let me play this out for you. Okay, when I grew up, there wasn't the immigration issue. It was minor, but not that big. When I grew up, so as a 16, 17-year-old kid, I was able to get my working papers, and then I went out and I went out to work. And I would work any job I could. I worked 2, 3 jobs. I worked in the movie theater. I worked in the gas station. I had all these jobs, and I would earn money. Now, today, those jobs are not available. Why? Because who wants to pay $10 or $15 an hour for a kid that doesn't know anything about anything, doesn't know what he's doing or how it's working? When they can automate, well, that's the first thing. But also, or I could pay this illegal that kind of money. Now, here's the other problem with the illegals is they're out there earning money under the table, as you say, okay, or off the books, as we used to say way back when, okay? But they don't report this income. And at the same time, they're collecting benefits, okay, on top of that, added to that. And then thirdly, okay, because they're illegal, some states are giving them free health care where I have to pay for mine as an American citizen. So now they get free health care, they get free money, they get food stamps because they're below the poverty line and they earn an income. You add it all together and they're making twice as much money as a normal individual.
Well, I mean, to put it bluntly, they're living the socialist utopia on our dime.
Yep. Absolutely.
It's absolutely wrong. And so no one's more grateful for what this country's provided for me and my family, but this country cannot survive if we continue the same old compromise after compromise. And so my running, is my argument to my voters is not like the other primary candidates. Their argument is vote for me. I'm not Kendra Horn. My argument, so someone in Congress is there who understands you, who values your priorities, who will fight for you, and is one of you. Because like most Oklahomans, I didn't grow up in inherited business. I didn't grow up in wealth. And I've had to fight for everything I got. And that's what I'm doing now is I'm fighting for the country I love. And I'm just so sick and tired of seeing so many Americans taken advantage of. And, at the expense of, a progressive policy by someone who has a loud voice. I look forward to meeting Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Well, actually, I hope she gets defeated during her Republican.
My good friend is running against her. This guy I went to high school with. So that's I'm hoping that is not the case. So I hope he beats her.
But I'll tell you what, is if I do, she's not going to be the loudest voice on Capitol Hill anymore. But I think it's time. Maybe we can take some questions. You think?
Do we have some? I don't have any. I don't have any questions on my end. Deary, do you have any questions for us? Yeah, I don't have any questions. I apologize.
Well, that's impromptu to allow them to.
To type in their questions. So let them type in the questions on Facebook and on the NRM website. But I'm gonna throw this at you. Okay. Yeah. By the way, on July 4th every year on the steps of Independence Hall, they have an annual reading of the Declaration of Independence. Unfortunately, at the moment, it's canceled. Okay.
Is that due to COVID concerns, or is that because of?
I don't know, but I'm telling you, it's like let's take away all of the things that our country is founded on, and let's take them away from people. But that's one of the things I'm very upset about, because I was planning to do that. That travel only about an hour and 15 minutes from downtown Philadelphia. But some of the things that you have to understand. You probably know this, but at the end of the Constitutional Convention in 1787. Benjamin Franklin was asked, what kind of government did we get? And his answer was a republic if you can keep it. We're having a problem keeping it at the moment, because the biggest thing is that what our country is about debate. We're shutting down debate. Debate was the highest honor. Right. Debate was the highest honor. You would have a debate. Today, here's how a debate ends on Facebook for anybody that I talk to that is against me, okay? At the end, when they lose the debate, I'm called a name. I'm either racist, I'm an ist.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
At the end. Okay? You cannot lose a debate. Okay, that's the first thing. And the second thing is they get violent. And let's talk about the First Amendment. The First Amendment says a peaceful assembly.
Not if you ask Chris Cuomo.
Okay? Protesting is not rioting. Okay? It's not destruction of property. It's not looting, and it's not beating fellow American citizens. Okay? If they disagree with you, you don't kick the daylights out of them. All right? You walk away and you have a debate about it. And our leaders are abdicating their responsibility and have stopped leading us. Okay?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right. They abdicate their fiduciary duties. They abdicate
everything.
Any duty that they can. And it, like you said, the Declaration of Independence. Let's go back to our founding. Is the Articles of Confederation, when those were active, you had to have unanimous agreement in order to get anything done. But then some guys in Philadelphia came up with the Constitution, brought it up to New York, and it got every single one of them scratching their head saying, wait a minute, we can have disagreements. That's okay.
Yep.
Our nation was founded on the ability to have disagreements amicably, not this whole social progressive nature. Well, you're sexist, you're a bigot, you're racist. Is the conversation ends there. And then when the conversation stops and it can't move forward anymore, the person who wants their voice to be heard the most likely turns to physical violence. And that's what we're
Absolutely. Yes. And you know what? Just to tell you, put a point on it, okay? Freedom ends when limits are put on it. Okay?
Yeah.
And hate speech, okay? That's defining speech. And unfortunately, no offense to the snowflakes, okay?
Offense
To
them. Listen,
okay.
they're snowflake.
Sorry, but go get yourself some nerve and come up with a reason to debate me, because I've been swayed. I have great debates with friends, and I've been swayed to say, well, maybe I'm not thinking about that right. Let me go back and look at it. However, I didn't go in a room and cry. I grew up in a row house in the Bronx, okay, in a lower middle class neighborhood where we people on my block, probably not the same as in Oklahoma where you're from, but in my block, okay, if you were cooking something, somebody 4 doors down knew exactly what you were cooking because they could smell it. Okay.
Yeah.
Secondly, there was no air conditioning at the time, so your windows were wide open. And if you had a disagreement with your wife, your mother, your daughter, whatever, everybody knew about it. And the next day, the mayor of the block, whoever it was, would say, "So, what happened with your mother last night?" Okay, they knew everything. They actually heard the whole argument.
But they cared. They cared as a community.
Absolutely.
They gave a crap. And we're seeing this complete dismissal of
Yes.
what it means to care about each other. Ephesians 4:32, be kind to one another.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What does it mean by being kind? Is if your own interest is self-driven and self-focused, you're not going to build the foundation of a community that allows you to thrive as an individual. Because even those individuals who are born without family, who grow up not knowing their family, they find a community and friendships, and a lot of the communities are found in churches. And I mean, far be it from me to not mention the fact that 29 of the signers of the Declaration of Independence were seminarians. They knew full well, and I mean, was it John Adams who said this nation was built for a moral and religious people?
Yes. Yes.
So he also said something other profound is, an armed society is a polite society. So
yes, absolutely. Well, Jefferson said the Declaration of Independence is the declaratory charter of our rights and the rights of man. See, they weren't just writing that. They weren't just writing for this country. They were writing for the world, and that's what people don't get. And by the way, I'm gonna blow you up a little bit for a second, and I'm gonna say that if you remember way back, I don't know, back in the '80s, there was a movie called Good Will Hunting. Okay.
Yeah.
With Matt Damon. What people fail to realize was that one of Matt Damon's neighbors was Howard Zinn, okay, who wrote The People's History of the United States, okay, which was the biggest Marxist lie in the history of histories. And that is what is being taught to our children. He wrote an entirely fictitious document that poses every American hero and calls them a racist. He starts with Christopher Columbus and he works his way up. Okay, and he lied. He actually.
Well, you don't need to get into finite details.
No, but he actually has his sculptor. Yes, but he actually has his sculpatory evidence that he conveniently left out. The whole 1619 project, okay, by the New York Times is a joke because it leaves out the righteous people.
Rewriting our history.
Yes.
It's the first step to a revolution, and you have these individuals just citing it left and right as it's, Godspeed. It's not. And
absolutely.
What I'm terrified of is the federal government's involvement in education as a large.
We advocated that too. We advocated that too.
But public schools and school choice can go hand in hand. And I believe that can happen on a federal level. You see the lottery program in Manhattan for the schools. When the schools compete against each other, the students win. because they're competing for the students to come there. Instead, you have these unions designed to keep the same political players in place for decades on end.
Absolutely.
And unresolved issues always win elections. It's going to take bold solutions to redirect our nation. And while I, as one representative in the House, can't make the difference all by myself, is I want to rally all 434 other representatives to say, hey, I've got skin in the game. I'm going to be around for the consequences of whatever we legislate. Let's get it right.
Right. Well, the thing is that I'm questioning everyone that is a member of the House of Representatives, the Senate, the president, everyone that holds an office in government takes an oath. And you, as in the military, you took the same oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. My question is, when you take that oath, I guess the first question would be, do you believe in the Constitution in order to take that oath? Because it's obviously that our founders never envisioned that people who would take that oath would lie about protecting and defending. Because I can guarantee you that when our leaders are ignoring crimes, they abdicate the responsibility, to protect and defend the people. And in other words, they just stop leading. And they're following Marxists who want to, basically walk the streets and annihilate anybody who disagrees with them. That's not the country I was born in.
With Chaz.
Yes.
Mean, they were they overtook the police station. And the crazy thing is they set up these border entrances with guards, with guns. And it's like, okay, so you're against police, but you've got quasi police and border patrol agents. This has to stop. And it's about refocusing on what is missing in our country. And it's the values that we hold dear. And it's the fact that the government doesn't legislate our values. And the government has become this overwhelming beast, if you will. And the largest employer in the United States
is the federal government.
Taking a
and the problem is, Miles, is that the way their government was proposed to work, and the way the Constitution was set up, was that the states manage themselves. People do not understand that
the federal government was supposed to be most present during wartime, and the states were supposed to be more present during peacetime. And we don't see that. Now it's the federal government. And,
the state, a state was called a state because at the time the state meant a country. 13 individual countries or states that joined together. We've lost that. And I'm sorry, but the rules in Oklahoma, and I can pretty much guarantee this, as you said, the rules in Oklahoma are not the same as the rules where I grew up in New York. They're just not the same.
Well, just take one extreme example is in Oklahoma, we've constitutional carry. It goes along with Adams, Arms Tied Polite Society.
Right.
And we passed a bill and have it signed by the governor, and the first in the nation of anti-red flag laws that will hold individuals who mistake their formal authority for moral authority and use their position to remove your ability to carry a weapon, if you will, unjustly. They can be personally held liable. I'd love to take that bill up to DC and champion it. Is another one of my policies is the gun owner tax deduction. It's a flat $100 tax deduction for every God-fearing American, every American really, that will pay for range time and ammunition per year. Because I know I rack up money spent at the range, and not only will it champion the Second Amendment, it'll incentivize safe firearm ownership. And so I think it's important because we're seeing our nation at a point where we better have our Second Amendment. Otherwise, it's going to get a whole lot more chaotic than it already is.
Miles, here's something I'll point out to you and take a look at it. Every place where these riots occurred and looting occurred, in every single one of those cities and states, they had Second Amendment laws to prevent the people from defending themselves. Every single one of them. It's not going to happen in Dallas, Texas. It's not going to happen in Dallas, Texas. It's just not going to happen. Okay. It's not going to happen in Oklahoma City. Okay.
No,
why? Why? Because the people of that city, the people of that state are going to defend themselves. But when you take away here's the whole purpose of this. Okay. When you take away
power.
Right. But when you take away, okay, understand something that picture behind you in the shadow box. Okay. What are they holding up? They are holding up the American flag. Okay. That is a symbol of our country. Okay.
I'd like to think they're holding up the dreams of our
I understand that,
founding fathers.
Absolutely. But what I'm getting at is when you reduce the flag and say that the flag is no longer honorable, okay, people fight for our flag. People fight. It is a symbol of our country. So now you remove that and people are no longer going to fight for our country. That's the first thing. The second thing is when you remove their property, okay, and say, you no longer have property, it's the government's property, okay?
Yeah.
People will fight to keep their property and their families. So this is how socialism and communism works. You have no longer a reason to fight. It is taken away from you. You're not defending anything. You're only defending the people who are running things. And that's where this is going.
What you said is absolutely, I think there's a really good historical lesson that we can pull from that, is look at the bloodshed you saw during World War II in Russia.
Yep.
Is these individuals were not patriotic to, their rights. Stalin was a mass murderer. But they overwhelmingly protected him. They protected their state. And so is this idea that they're prevailing of what the United States is, of what, how awful it is there's nothing that they are, that they're bringing forward, that they're protecting. And so the only logical outcome of that is that their intent is a new form of government.
Yeah.
And mob mentality. And I'm not going to sit around and watch the nation I love destroyed. I'm going to fight for it tooth and nail. And I'm going to advocate for each and every one of the voters in my district, regardless of party, because I want to make sure that they can pursue liberty.
I have a couple of questions. Yeah. I have a couple of questions that came in. Nick asks, what steps are you willing to take to begin decoupling from China?
Again, the immigration moratorium. And I think telling China that we are not allowing any travel back and forth of Americans or Chinese to America until they shut down 100% of their wet markets. B, until we can send in American forensic teams, because the Wuhan virus came out of the only biosafety level 4 facility area, Wuhan. And now the studies showed that while it was released in one of their wet markets, it traces straight back to the biosafety level 4 facility. And so I would advocate for a complete pause on any travel between our two countries. And honestly, putting manufacturing pharmaceuticals and medical equipment back to the United States and incentivizing employers to bring it back as soon as possible. And honestly, because it has to do with our survival, you might look at penalizing these companies that want to take their production overseas.
Mm-hmm. Understood. Second question. Logan, by the way, Logan, it's, my grandson's name is Logan as well. What change will you bring to Congress, and can Republicans count on you to support the large majority of President Trump's agenda if elected? So the MAGA agenda.
Yeah, I absolutely. I'm 30 years old. The change I seek to bring to Congress includes getting a handle on our spending that's being forwarded to my generation. And Logan, I'm not sure how old you are, but let's take Social Security, for example. The Congressional Budget Office says it's going to be defunct by 2034. Okay, with that respect, I'm 30 years old. I'm going to be 44 at that time. So why is it that 30 years old and younger we're able to invest in some other private plan and have it matched at 6% like we do now? And for everyone above the age of 30, and maybe have an age cutoff limit as to where you can drop out of Social Security altogether, but allow them to collect, because it's more expensive to keep it the way it is than to just stop it all together and say, all right, everyone above my age, you can collect your Social Security. And that's part of the change. But also the rally call that I have of saying, I'm going to be around for the consequences, and my only staying 3 terms, so I can pass this back to a citizen legislature.
Well, I'll tell you, 2034 is 14 years away, right? I will have.
We'll be at. Wait, how old will Barron be?
Well, I'm just saying, I will be on Social Security. I'm 59 now, so add 14 years to that. I pretty much will only be on Social Security for about 9 years.
I don't want to touch it for your age group. It doesn't make sense to.
I'm not.
But for my age group, yeah.
Well, if I was able to have received or been able to have invested, just instead of doing what I had to do, instead in secure investments, okay? Yeah. And I'm not talking about risky investments, so the secured S&P. If I had done that, all the money that I had invested at this point in time, I would have over $2 million. Okay,
well, and
it would be mine.
Budget
it would be
cuts.
It would be mine. Okay, would be mine to give to my family in the event of my death. Here's another thing that you might not know of, Miles. The whole Democrat plan, the whole Democrat plot is there's a whole bunch of money right now in something called 401ks that the government allowed people to invest in, okay, pre-tax, okay? Well, what they're planning to do is to means test that 401k, and that they want to do is they want to say, oh, by the way, that 401k, that's ours, somebody else needs it, okay? And take it away from you.
Get the government.
Elizabeth Warren has already proposed it, okay? They want to take it away from you, okay? It's your money, but they want to take it away from you and give it to somebody else.
But they're already doing that, and people don't realize it. Let's take the windfall elimination program. And many people haven't heard of this. It restricts first responders like firefighters, police officers, or federal, state employees from receiving full Social Security benefits. If I'm not, it's been a minute since I read the text, but specifically, they can get back up to 40% of their Social Security, but they can't get 100 if they receive a pension from the firefighter, from the police officer place. How is that right?
From the union. That's totally wrong. It's totally wrong.
It's highway robbery.
Yes, it is.
So you need someone up there to really, you need someone willing to throw elbows and flip tables up there, like AOC does, but with facts.
Miles, I want to throw this at you. I call this the Detroit Project. You know that they had the Manhattan Project to create the nuclear bomb. I created the Detroit Project, and the reason I call it the Detroit Project is that we've decimated Detroit, and this is the way to get Detroit back. All right. I propose that we create an educational program in the inner cities. All right, in which we have large businesses and Ivy League colleges provide 1 to 2 teachers, okay, to a region. All right, and they get a tax credit for this, and those teachers go in to teach the inner cities how to increase STEM education. All right, and have this done, and within 5 years, you will reduce the need for H-1B visas from foreign countries.
Hold on. You said something right there that I think needs to be addressed. The H-1B visas, the need for them is completely fabricated.
Oh, I understand that.
We don't have a need for these high-tech, for employees to take these high-tech jobs. We don't have the employees to fill these jobs because these colleges abuse student visa programs that raise these colleges that take money from Uncle Sam will then target out-of-state tuition students, individuals from foreign countries, so they can make more of a profit. And so it's incentivizing them to ask for and lobby for more student visas to bring them in. And so it drives up the cost of tuition that your Joe Schmuckatelli cannot afford. And so he gets out with a bachelor's degree and some other guys here on a student visa program to get his master's degree from a rich country, from a rich family from China, and taking away an American's ability to get that education because they're more concentrated on paying off their debt.
Yes. Well, my son-in-law is about 8 years out of graduate school. Okay. And my daughter told me yesterday he has about another 15 years to go to pay off his student loan debt. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's unheard of. Okay. It's unheard of.
My wife is, she graduated Oklahoma State and got a master's in educational technology and, $40,000 of debt. I mean, student debt has to be addressed, but we can't expect the government to pay for it. You should not have the government in the business of loans that put as much emphasis on underwater basket weaving or folklore than they do these STEM programs.
Absolutely.
You need to be able to actually say, okay, what is the risk assessment for this? What is the return? If I put in an application for a bank loan that says, hey, I'm going to law school. Okay, this guy is probably going to be able to pay us. Underwater basket weaving, not so much.
No.
And so the federal government needs to get.
Well, all right. You don't even have to go that deep, but you can say, a degree in European literature, for example.
Yeah. Well.
Okay. You want to do that. If you want to do that,
will help this.
I know. But if you want to do that, that's not a problem. If you like that, great, not a problem. But don't burden the entire country with a debt that you can't pay back because you don't have a job. Okay.
Well, and they're trying to do this with, the second CARES package that they're trying to pass through is because of Governor Cuomo's terrible governing of New York. They're the same population size of Florida, but Florida, is able to have a much better budget outlook than they do. And now they're asking for the federal government to help pay off all of their debts. And so it just goes to show Democrats abdicating the responsibility of fiduciary duties.
Yes.
And a lot of others. And
somebody's got to hold these people accountable. And unfortunately, this is where you come in, Miles. This is where you come in. You've got to win. You've got to win the seat back for the Republicans and put some sanity
absolutely
into government and have it go back to the consent of the governed. Because if the other way around happens, I fear for my country. I fear for my yeah, because it's not going to be the same. You will not have access to the same things. You'll be told what to do, where to go, what to think, what's right think, what's wrong think. And, Orwell will just pop in and, create it. And as I say to people, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is one of the prime examples. She is so against charter schools. However, when her niece needed to get into a charter school, she lobbied using her influence to get her niece into a charter school. And I use George Orwell's line in Animal Farm, which is everyone is equal, but some people are more equal than others. Okay, and that's the idea of what socialism is about.
Well, I mean, we see it. As just to not hit on exactly the same topic, but it's the capitulation that we as a Republican Party, that President Trump has underscored, of compromising ourselves to bad policy after bad policy. And specifically, President Trump, he allowed us to realize we don't need a politician. Hell, we don't even need an outsider or businessman. We just need a fighter. And President Trump has been a fighter. And yes, he's a bull in a china shop. And unfortunately, the china shop is too big for one bull. And I want to join him as a second conservative bull, because even here in my Republican primary is the same old stale and out of touch Republican leaders who lost this seat to begin with. And any viewers that's a veteran, you'll understand just how angering this next part is. I was informed, we got, our campaign was forwarded audio of the GOP chairwoman of the Oklahoma County, of one of the three counties, was spreading the fabrication, because they didn't want me to run, the fabrication that I was dishonorably discharged. And that is just insulting. That is terrible, because I want to fight for our vets. That's part of the main reason I'm running, to be a voice. Because not only have we allowed our fiduciary duties to be abdicated, we've allowed our veteran responsibility to be abdicated.
Miles, anybody that disparages you on that level has no right to represent anything in the United States of America. Period. Absolutely. End of story. Okay, yeah. You honorably served your country, and to tell anyone that you were dishonorably discharged is an affront to every single veteran in this country that served this nation. Okay, absolutely. I'm going to say one last thing for you, and then I'm going to let you close. America is being played for suckers right now. Okay, and I'll tell you why. The Dems and the media has played us for suckers. They closed our businesses. They closed our churches. They closed our parks. They closed our beaches. They banned funerals. They banned graduations. They're making you wear masks, which, okay, I know people who vape through their masks. Okay, how much good is that going to do? They banned dads in delivery rooms, but they allow riots in the street to go unabated.
Hey, Chicago, let the LGBTQ community have their pride parade where 10,000 people showed up.
I'm telling you, America, you were played. You are the sucker. And now they're trying to do it again because they want to shut down this government. Again, they want to shut down this entire country so that they can win an election. I don't know about you, but if you're voting for the other side on this thing, something's wrong with you.
Or if you're voting for the same old stale and out of touch, regardless of party, but specifically Democrats, then you're part of the problem. We need loud voices to re-inspire the reality of my living at 10 years old in that trailer to being here with you in this broadcast as proof the American dream's alive and well for anyone willing to do the work for it. I'm not the victim. I am the victor, and I want everyone to realize that. And I'm running because this country is the country I love, and it's provided so much for me, and I'm proud to be an American. And so with that, I'd like to ask anyone left watching, I'd ask you to go to milesforoklahoma.com and help me, because we are in the last hours before voting begins, and I need your help in the form of donations to get my message out through social media. I'm not a wealthy politician or self-funded millionaire. I'm just your everyday American who loves this country and wants to fight for it and wants to re-inspire our youth and the reality of the American dream.
Miles, I just want to say this, that anybody in reach of my voice, okay, can hear me. And if they understand what's at stake, this young man needs your help at this particular point in time. Okay? Go to his website. What's the name of the website again?
milesforoklahoma.com.
milesforoklahoma.com. Miles needs your help. He needs, listen, 20 bucks, $5, whatever it is. He needs your help just to get over this hump for the last 24 hours. Okay? He needs your help. Get to him and get him some help. Call your friends, whatever it takes. There are Miles Rahimis out there that need your help. And this man is an American patriot. And I tell each one of you to support this man. I'm going to end my my town hall tonight by quoting Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. And he said it best, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and the government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from this earth. I want to thank you, Miles, for joining me today, having a very engaging conversation.
Hey, thank you. The Gettysburg Address is hanging
right there, hanging on your wall. And I'm telling you, my friend, this is where we're going to make a difference. Vote for Miles tomorrow. If you're in Oklahoma, do what you can. Get out there. Get out to vote. Walk, run. There's what, 1,800 polling places you told me yesterday?
No, 182.
182 polling places. Get to every single one of them. Get your car. Get there. Miles Rahimi, Miles for Oklahoma. And if you can get some money to them, that'd be even better. Okay? My name is Frank D'Onofrio. I'm with nrnplus.com/live, newrightnetwork.com. I am here today with Miles Rahimi, Miles for Oklahoma, District 5 in Oklahoma. I want to thank you very much for being my guest tonight, Miles. This is Frank D'Onofrio signing off. Take it away, Theory. It's all yours.
Hello, everybody. This is Josh Macias, National Director of Vets for Trump. Excited to come to talk to you about another Navy veteran that is stepping up in the 5th Congressional of Oklahoma, and that is Miles Rahimi. And you need to understand what he is up to in Oklahoma. This brother in arms has been downrange, and he understands the intricacies of the veteran community, and he understands the military mindset because he just got out. And he understood that the battle needed to continue on the home front, and that's why we support him 110% and are giving our Vets for Trump endorsement in the Oklahoma 5th District. You need to get to know Miles as I'm getting to know him well more, and you need to be able to vote for him in Oklahoma. This is Josh Macias, Vets for Trump out.
Hey guys, Miles Rahimi, America First Conservative, running in Oklahoma's 5th Congressional District. Thank you so much, Josh, for the kind words. I'm really honored to have the endorsement of Vets for Trump. I got out of the Navy a few months ago because I saw a larger battle that needs to be waged for our brothers and sisters in arms, for scars that they bring off the battlefield. I worked as a corpsman specifically in mental health, and we need to have a national discussion on mental health and provide our veterans with the care they deserve. Again, thank you so much for the endorsement by Vets for Trump. I'm honored to have it, and I want to help President Trump fight to build this border wall and fight against the deep state. God bless you, and God bless America.